Hey guys, I'm Sahil. That's spelled Sahil. And how I explain the pronunciation to my teachers is like, I saw a hill, right? Saw a hill. Sahil, right? Easy enough. So, in honor of this being the first video in hopefully a long series, I'm going to explain a little bit about what I'm trying to do. So when I'm walking around, I usually end up wondering about a lot of things, and then I end up finding these solutions. And when I was telling people about the things I was wondering, I found that a lot of people were wondering the same thing. So then I thought, well, why don't I share my findings or sort of the things that I've discovered by doing the research and that sort of stuff with all these people. So that's why I'm making these videos. So let's go ahead and we can erase my name because that's kind of insignificant. So, as you can tell probably by the title, what we're going to be talking about is why more weight in cars equals less or lower or even worse, any way you describe it is fine, mpg, or miles per gallon. And so this whole time we're going to be interpreting the slash as per. So when we get into meters per second or meters per second squared, it's all per. Right? That's pretty straightforward. Now, why do people wonder about this? Well, what car companies are telling everyone is that, 3 years ago they had a car that did 32 miles per gallon. But now they have a car that does 60 miles per gallon. And other car companies have cars that'll do 102 miles per gallon, right? So as you can tell, over the years, this has been increasing. And why is that? There's two reasons and two methods that these car companies use to increase the miles per gallon of their cars. So increase the efficiency, essentially, of their cars. So the first thing they do is, like I said, increase efficiency of the engine. And what that means is the engine will produce more power, essentially, from the same amount of fuel. And that's not what we're going to be talking about today. What we're going to be talking about is decrease weight. Right? This right here is what we're going to be talking about, because that's pretty straightforward. So let's find a little bit more room. Now, what we need to start off with is some basic knowledge of physics. And if you've taken any physics course in your entire life, you know Newton's second law. Newton's second law. Maybe you don't know it, but you've definitely heard of it. F equals ma. And so this means that the force equals the mass of the object times its acceleration. So this is force. This is mass, or more commonly referred to as weight. And this is acceleration. Right? So that's pretty straightforward. And this here is a fundamental. That means it's fundamental to what we're going to be learning about today. So if you don't understand this, I'll explain it in a second. I've already explained it, I suppose. If you don't fully understand this, I suggest you go look it up. It's not a difficult formula to understand. All it says is the more force you apply to a constant mass, which is this right here, which is going to be our car, the faster it will accelerate. Right? So this force right here is applied by the engine. And this acceleration is also the acceleration of the car. Now, let's help you visualize it in a sort of real sense. When you push, so this is your accelerator pedal, right? And this is, say, 70 degrees. When you push this accelerator pedal down to, say, 30 degrees, that means you're telling the engine to produce more force. So this engine producing more force. That's exactly what's happening when you go from here to here. When you push harder on the accelerator pedal, you're feeding more gasoline through your engine, and in turn the engine is increasing the force it's providing to the wheels, which means that your car of some defined mass is going to accelerate more quickly. So what we have now is, conceptually, F equals ma, and we know for a fact that less weight equals better MPG. Now, if you don't quite understand why this is true, why this statement right here, why this is true, I'll explain it right now. So, with the equation F equals ma, if you have, say, a force of, let's say you have a force of 100 newtons, right? And your mass is 10 kilograms, right? What is your A going to be? Your A is going to equal 10 meters per second squared. So this is the unit for acceleration. It's not really significant right now. Now, if you went further and said you have the same force, which means the engine is providing the same amount of force to the car, but your car this time only weighs 5 kilograms. What's your acceleration going to be? Your acceleration is going to equal 20 meters per second squared. So what that means is, to achieve the same acceleration on a car with a smaller mass, you actually need to apply a lesser force. So let's prove that. On the same car, the 5 kilogram mass, 5 kilogram mass acceleration, we're going to apply a force of just 50 newtons. And that means your acceleration equals 10 meters per second squared. Right? This right here is crucial. Understanding why having less force on a smaller mass means the same acceleration is crucial. That's exactly what Newton's second law, this F equals ma equation, is designed to display to people. Okay? Now, what we talked about earlier up here is that as you push harder on the accelerator pedal, the engine is producing more force. Why? The engine's producing more force because you're feeding more gasoline into the engine. Now here, on a lesser mass, you need less force, which means less gasoline goes into the engine, which means you're using less gasoline to go the same distance. So less force equals less gasoline equals better MPG, right? Overall. That's what we just proved. Okay? That's what Newton's second law, right here, that's what the equation F equals ma allows us to prove. Why less mass gives you better MPG. If you have a lesser mass, you need lesser force, which means less gasoline needs to be fed into the engine, which means you get a better MPG.